Just some quick thoughts before the Canucks play later tonight. By the way, the voice is getting a little bit better, so thank you to those who have been talking in the comments about their best wishes. But what I wanted to do in this video was go over to the Canucks and their coaching situation, just kind of review where to go from here. Because obviously everybody knows that Bruce Boudreau was a well-beloved member of the Vancouver Canucks coaching staff who was particularly treated poorly, I guess you could say, wherein the Canucks knew they were hiring somebody else and everybody else in the media knew the Canucks were hiring somebody else and Bruce Boudreau knew that somebody else was coming in. It was a really bad situation, but Elliot Friedman's fault or not, the way it happened was very unfortunate. But now we have to technically move past that as a fan base as the Canucks literally play their next game in a few hours from now. Sure, you might see yourselves some Bruce There It Is chants. You might see yourself some support for the former coaching staff shown on display here at tonight's showcase at Rogers Arena, but what I wanted to do was talk about some of the new guys here, because with Rick Tocchet, Sergei Gonchar, and Adam Foote each making their debut with the organization within the past few days, there is a pretty intriguing idea floating around there that kind of articulates where the team is going in this entire ordeal. Let's go over onto Rob Fay's Twitter, because what Rob did was made a tweet summarizing everything. I think it's a pretty good one. This is what Fay says on, when was the 22nd? Sunday? Okay, so they fired Bruce. Here's what's coming back. Sergei Gonchar is an excellent role model for young Russian players. Adam Foote was a fantastic defenseman, and Rick Tocchet, who won't tolerate clubhouse vibes. How they handled Bruce was awful, but I see their vision. And this is a pretty simple tweet. It's one that doesn't really have too much, analysis behind it, but I do like what it is that Rob is trying to preach here, just the differing ideas that the Canucks are trying to bring in with this coaching staff. Of course, we know there's a lot of connections here. Oh, Rutherford had been in contact with these guys. They worked together in Pittsburgh, stuff like that. There's definitely a level of familiarity here with these newer names being brought into the Canucks organization, but what there also is a difference in style. And I'd actually been seeing this pop up a little bit here and there, talking about the idea as to whether or not Bruce Boudreau didn't really fit what it was the new regime in Vancouver was trying to do with their hockey team. This is a tweet made from the other day after Rick Tocchet was brought in. Jay Janauer says, "This isn't a knock on Boudreau, but the Canucks practice today is a lively one. I've seen a lot of practices where there was little if any jump. Certainly not the case here." And Rick Tocchet has such a reputation of being this sort of hard-nosed style of coach who won't really tolerate lazy play. He won't tolerate guys not back-checking. And honestly, while I don't think that Tocchet is going to come in here and make the Canucks win, he's not going to help the team make the playoffs per se. Taking a look at the similarities between Tocchet and a guy like Tortorella, for example. We know how Tortorella didn't really work in Vancouver, but you could understand why his systems are the way they are and why somebody would value a coach of that particular style. I feel like Tocchet is sort of in a similar boat here. Not necessarily getting brought in because he's going to make the Canucks win, but because he's going to whip the Canucks into shape. Just get some of the guys in here who are playing a little bit lazy, who are playing a little bit like it's a job, not necessarily because they want to play and they want to win, and make it so that they are going out there and trying to win a little bit more. Here's a comment on the Canucks subreddit that I wanted to read out to you here. Zamboni2022 says, "I'm probably going to get downvoted to hell for this, but what if, for all the likability and bubbly personality of Boudreau, he was actually a bad coach for this team and for its young players' development, and this new coaching team actually turns a small positive corner for this tire fire organization? Are we allowed to have some positive hope?" Vamp629 says, "All of the following can be true. Bruce was nearing his end year and deserved to be fired. It was crappy how upper management went about actually doing that. Rick Tocchet may or may not be the best fit for this roster. I'm willing to give them a chance, and I'm intrigued to see what happens with him in there." Not to mention Sergei Gonchar and Adam Foote, both of whom have been brought in for the same reasons as well. I do like the point that Rob Fay makes when it comes to Russian players and how Gonchar could be a pretty nice role model for these guys. Obviously, a guy like Podkolzin isn't learning how to play defense from a guy like Sergei Gonchar, most likely, but when there was an articulated idea that says that, okay, guys like Podkolzin, guys like Höglander, the plan is to have these guys in the NHL and actually playing and developing properly, it is an intriguing part seeing that, okay, there is a good connection here with Gonchar, with Kuzmenko, with Mikheyev, with Podkolzin, with any other Russians that eventually make their way to Vancouver here. It's going to be intriguing to see if there's a little bit more of an attraction to Vancouver with Russian players because of this sort of move, and what kind of benefits this could prove for the rest of the Canucks on-ice play, having two players like Gonchar and Foote at the helm of your coaching staff here. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about before we end off this video is JT Miller. Because with all the conversations that Tocchet is this military discipline style coach, a lot of people went out there and started speculating, okay, what's the future of Miller now? Because as Miller was moved over to the wing at the end of the Boudreau days, he actually started to play a lot better. He started to produce more points, started to score more goals. Miller as a center, playing all the minutes that he did while he was in that position, it wasn't really too effective. Once he got moved back over to the wing, you started to see him produce a little bit better. But for Rick Tocchet and the practice that he had, he actually played Miller on center once more with Conor Garland. Now, when it comes to the comments that Tocchet had regarding Miller, there's a lot of stuff that Tocchet had said that I think sort of directly points to Miller's way as well. Tocchet diplomatic on Miller, saying sometimes that Miller paces himself because he is playing too many minutes. Sounds like he also won't have much time for bad body language on the ice either. Daniel Wagner wrote an article saying this, perhaps a telling quote from Rick Tocchet on Sunday is that you can't stop backchecking because you're mad at somebody, he said, then added a moment later, that's for everybody, not just JT. But I think we all know who that referred to. Tocchet says that Miller is a sincere guy. There's a couple of things he wants me to help him work on. I love guys that are transparent. He knows he's got to work on a few things. Look, he can dominate a game. I want to see that. The other stuff we'll work on too. And so, when you see JT Miller lazily back-checking, costing the team an odd man rush, giving the puck up on the boards, which results in an odd man rush, and Miller ends up not really doing his part to get back into play, when you see all of this stuff go on, it's apparent that these are things that Tocchet notices, and he knows has been the case for Miller and his play the past little while here, so I'm going to be very intrigued as to seeing how Tocchet is going to work with Miller specifically, because the rest of the team, I mean, as long as Bo keeps on scoring goals, as long as PD gets that confidence up and he's still producing and playing the way he has been, if he's able to get Conor Garland going again, then that'd be pretty good to see, especially for the trade value point of view too. But for Rick Tocchet, at the end of the day, there is a vision here. Sure, the Canucks' handling of the former regime was terrible, and the way that they ended up going was really bad, unnecessarily, embarrassing and in the public eye where it shouldn't have been. But with the new guys brought in, there is an idea that I think is being promoted here that I do understand. So I want you to talk in the comments all your thoughts about Rick Tocchet and the plan here, the vision, as they're saying. What exactly do you think is going to happen for tonight's game, the first game under Rick Tocchet? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99. And bye.